Discover the incredible moment when a young waitress shockingly speaks French to a mafia boss. The clattering of plates echoed through the bustling diner, the air thick with the comforting aroma of gumbo. Lily Johnson, a determined 24-year-old waitress, effortlessly maneuvered through her daily grind. Reality felt oppressive, every smile she forced concealed the weight of supporting her single mother and younger brother. She longed to pursue culinary arts, but the meager tips from patrons barely scraped through their essentials. Her hands, worn but dexterous, mirrored her hard work, yet her heart ached to chase greater dreams. On this humid morning, as sunlight flooded through the diner's glass panes, an imposing figure entered. Giovanni Gio Moretti. Known for his iron fist, he commanded silence as he slid into a booth in the back. Lily's pulse quickened as she apprehensively served him, conscious of the air thickening around the diner like an approaching storm. Fear gnawed at her insides. Was this man here to threaten their fragile peace or wield his power for something darker? Her mother's warnings echoed in her mind, urging her to steer clear of the likes of Gio. When he finally dropped his order, he spoke in French, each syllable coated with an authoritative charm. To everyone's shock, and her own disbelief, Lily found herself responding fluently, her hidden talent bubbling to the surface. The world around them blurred as a connection ignited between them, something beyond mere attraction. Joe's intense gaze revealed intrigue and respect, while Lily saw a glimmer of her lost ambitions reflected back. But dread twisted in her stomach. Could she trust this man entrenched in a world of deceit? Caught in the undertow of his charismatic presence, Lily wrestled with conflicting emotions. She felt the brimming tension from rival gangsters lurking beyond the diner's doors, tightening her chest with every thud of her heartbeat. A part of her craved the excitement and danger that Gio represented, a tantalizing escape from her suffocating reality. How could she even consider aligning herself with him? Trust seemed ludicrous. This was a man who toyed with lives, draped in greed and danger. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the moment stretched, the diner's neon lights flickered, paralleling her wavering resolve. The escalating presence of rival gangsters heightened the tension, leaving Lily torn between ambition and loyalty. Could she abandon her family's values for a chance at a brighter future with someone like Gio? What if diving into his world only dragged her deeper into chaos, further from the culinary dreams that burned within her? And as this dangerous allure loomed, a sudden commotion erupted outside, shattering the buzz of the diner. In that chaos, her heart hung in the balance. Would she grapple with her preceding loyalty, or leap into the storm for a shot at something thrilling? In that crowded space filled with anxious whispers and watched glances, decisions crystallized, and yet, uncertainty stretched infinitely, leaving her suffocated by the weight of what lay ahead. The diner transformed into a battleground of emotion, the stakes impossibly high, as the shadows from Joe's world encroached on her dreams like a hunter closing in on prey. Lily's mind raced as the commotion outside the diner intensified. A cacophony of raised voices and the sharp crack of a shattering window filled the air, pulling her focus back. Panic gripped her at the thought of her mother and brother. Were they safe? Gio's presence, once a source of intrigue, now added layers of danger she couldn't ignore. Consequently, a decisive moment loomed before her, demanding resolution. The breath of the bustling diner had turned stale, oppressed by the weight of uncertainty. Observers glanced nervously at Gio, whose chilling calm was in stark contrast to their growing anxiety. Did he command respect, or was his presence merely a reminder of the fear he instilled? Yet in him, Lily saw a parallel to her own struggles, a man shaped by the tumultuous chaos he commanded. The irony gnawed at her, his world echoed the relentless fight for survival she herself was entrenched in. "Remember who you are," she muttered under her breath, asserting the values her mother had instilled in her. But those values suddenly felt like cumbersome chains binding her. Could she really continue to live as a mere bystander in her life? This was not just about survival anymore, it was about chasing the flicker of hope ignited during their fleeting moments in conversation. Her heart pulsed with an awareness that pushed her toward a pivotal choice. As she wiped down a nearby table, remnants of gumbo smeared across her fingers, she wondered if sacrificing her foundational beliefs for a fleeting chance at a culinary career with GOS support could morph her existence. Uncertainty clawed at her mind. Could she maintain a balance between her integrity and the opportunity to elevate her culinary dreams? The diner's doors burst open, and two men, rough around the edges and clearly agitated, stormed inside. Lily's instincts flared as their eyes locked onto Gio. An exhale of tension rippled through the space as the air turned electric. "Giovanni, you're in deep water with the wrong crew," one of the men declared with a venomous edge. Gio remained unperturbed, leaning back with an indifferent smirk. Lily's heart quickened as she processed the escalating confrontation. She could feel the weight of her own ambitions colliding with the chaos before her. Could she offer assistance, leverage the knowledge she had gained from their exchanges? A sense of unexpected clarity washed over her. She possessed the skill to navigate this crisis. Gio's eyes momentarily flickered toward Lily, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. It was as if he recognized her potential, the spark of determination fanned into flames by the urgency of the moment. She took a step forward, drawing the focus of the room. Would her defiance cost her everything she held dear? The men eyed her now, surprise etched on their faces as the realization dawned that she was not merely an onlooker in this dangerous game, a realization that had the potential to reshape everything she thought she understood about her life and her choices. Gathering her courage, Lily leaned into her emotions, confidence mingled with fear and a resolute drive to redefine her narrative. "If you want to negotiate, do it outside. This is a place for customers," she declared, her tone steady but assertive. The amusement flickered in Gio's expression as he observed her, and for the first time, Lily felt a surge of power emanating from within. Perhaps it was a moment of courage that could shift her circumstances, a turning point in her life that would finally allow her to seize her potential. But as the two men exchanged incredulous glances, she wondered if this was the path that would open new doors or if it would lead her into shadows darker than she could ever anticipate. With the air thick with tension, a single question haunted her: at what cost would she climb the ladder of ambition? The moment felt pivotal. She could feel excitement and fear coursing through her veins as she prepared for whatever was to come next. Would her bold stand lead to an opportunity for transformation? Just as clarity seemed to settle in her mind, she caught a glint of something ominous within Gio's eyes, stirring a deep sense of apprehension. What new challenge awaited her as she ventured into this unpredictable storm? The stillness after Lily's declaration hung in the air, thick and charged. The two men exchanged wary glances, their bravado momentarily cracked. For the first time that evening, a roiling uncertainty seeped into the faces of those accustomed to wielding power through intimidation. Lily's heart raced, each beat amplifying her resolve. She felt a shift within herself, as if the ground beneath her was solidifying in tandem with her audacity. This wasn't just a plea for her own dignity, it was a declaration that echoed a deeper craving for purpose. In that moment, she recognized herself not merely as a waitress but as a stake in this lethal game. The men stepped forward, moving to assert their authority, yet Lily stood her ground. "Leave now, or I'll call the police." The words felt foreign, yet exhilarating. She had taken a step beyond the predictable confines of her reality, a decision that would either expose her vulnerabilities or fortify her spirit. Gio's presence loomed over her like a shadow, a heavy acknowledgement of both danger and inspiration. He observed her with an intensity that was almost predatory, but beneath the surface, she sensed a flicker of respect. What had begun as a mere flirtation with ambition now burgeoned into an irreversible commitment. She may be caught in the crossfire, but she would not be a passive victim. The men stiffened, unsure how to react to the unexpected defiance. "You've got guts, girl," one of them spat, his voice laced with disdain but also a grudging admiration. "But this isn't a playground. Neither is this a battleground for you to settle scores," she countered, her voice steady. But as she spoke, doubt trickled through. Was she prepared for the backlash that might follow? What if this marked the start of a tumultuous confrontation? Enough, Jake, the other man urged, his eyes darting between her and Gio. We've got business to handle. Don't drag this out. The tension shifted, now inflected with hesitation. The confrontation had unmoored more than just Lily's authority, it had permeated their facade of control. Seeing the way the men faltered ignited a spark in Lily. What lay buried beneath her hesitations? Bursting forth from the depths of her as she leaned into the revelation, she recalled the countless hours spent following her mother in the kitchen, mastering her craft. Each dish crafted with precision, each flavor layered with intention, hadn't she always been constructing her aspirations amid chaos? Yet this moment demanded more than culinary talent, it required her full engagement as a person willing to stake everything. Let me help you, she implored, shifting her stance, eyes unwavering. Whatever the situation is, I can navigate it. The words erupted without forethought, an invitation for involvement rather than a passive acceptance of fear. Gio's expression morphed into something more contemplative, the duality of approbation and wariness seamlessly weaving through his gaze. Inside her, a paradox of desire and dread churned. Would stepping into this role solidify her presence, or would it lead her to a depth she wasn't prepared to swim through? Jake's lips curled into a mirthless smile. You think you can sweet-talk the wolves away, huh? He stepped closer, questions lurking in his eyes. How about you show us what you've got? Before she could respond, Gio finally moved. Rising from his seat, he adjusted his collar with a relaxed elegance that belied the storm brewing around them. Why not let her speak? He suggested coolly, as if the threat was little more than a game. After all, talent deserves a shot. Lily stared up at him, puzzled. Did he mean as a culinary advisor, or was this about something far more intricate? His words bore a weight that hung tantalizingly in the air. Perhaps this was an opportunity to prove not just her culinary mettle, but her innate courage. As the atmosphere intensified with every respectful nod shared between Gio and the men, Lily felt a dizzying urgency. Had she just unwittingly challenged the very foundations of her modest existence? Or was she setting the stage for the birthing of a new self? The tension coiled tighter as she steeled herself for what was to come, uncertain if this could be a turning point. When the moment finally unfolded, would it serve as the genesis of her ambition or the catalyst of her undoing? What awaited her next as she stepped further into the storm was uncertain, but one thing became strikingly clear, she was ready to face the consequences, whatever they might be. The air crackled with an energy that felt almost electric. As Lily stood resolute, her mind raced with the implications of what she had just done. She was no longer just a waitress fumbling through life, blending into the background. With each heartbeat resonating louder, she was stepping onto a stage that demanded her full attention, a place where her ambitions could intertwine with danger. Gio's cool demeanor struck her as both unsettling and encouraging. Hadn't she spent years cooking, refining her passion in the warmth of a kitchen while cradling dreams? She had glimpsed the world that revolved around bold flavors and artistic presentations, but this was different. This wasn't just about culinary expertise or personal growth, it was about asserting her presence in a world filled with alpha personalities and hidden agendas. What do you have in mind? Jake's voice jolted her back from her reverie. His challenge hung in the air, spiking the tension further. Did this man think she was going to back down? Did he not see the fire in her eyes? She felt a comet of determination blaze through her, illuminating the path ahead. I know kitchens, she began, her voice steady. I understand how to bring elements together and create something extraordinary from the chaos. Her gaze swung confidently between Jake and the other man, and she could see their surfaces wrinkle with skepticism. I can help you manage whatever is happening here. The words spilled forth, unbidden but undeniably assertive. This wasn't simply an offer, it was a proclamation born of years spent learning about flavor profiles and ingredient harmonies. Could she translate that knowledge into the treacherous world of crime and negotiation? The thought sent a tremor through her core, but as she considered her abilities, she allowed herself to picture it. Are you serious? Jake smirked, visibly amused at the audacity of her proposal. "You're implying you can contribute to our business?" "Yes. I'm serious," she replied, spirit ignited. "In a world where every minute counts, let me navigate the odds for you, even with potential conflicts. I understand balance, timing, and the significance of every ingredient in a dish. Just as in life, it's about knowing when to merge flavors and when to keep them apart." Gio's eyes flickered with interest. He was assessing her, weighing her potential against their precarious circumstances. She could sense a shift. For the first time, she wasn't he the desperate underling but a player in their game. Jake's laughter was short, dismissive. "The whims of a kitchen have no place in the type of business we're discussing, sweetheart." Nevertheless, with every moment that passed, Lily felt the facade of intimidation around her begin to crumble. The doubts that once clouded her mind shifted into steps she could take. Would her culinary prowess translate into something tangible in this landscape? She had to trust in her ability to adapt, much like she did when trying new flavors in her dishes. "Maybe not everything, but I can make it more palatable," she countered sharply, each word calculated. "I won't shy away from confronting the complexities that arise." "You want to negotiate? Let me prepare the essentials first, and then let us talk." Silence hung heavy. Jake's grin fluctuated between disbelief and reluctant intrigue. She could feel it stirring, the awareness that she was challenging him from the inside of his own well-tread narrative. Gio's expression darkened slightly, even as the ghost of a smile played at the corners of his mouth, and it dawned on Lily that she had crossed a threshold. Had she just offered herself as more than they anticipated? This newfound assertiveness could be her greatest asset or her undoing. "Fine. You've piqued my interest," Jake finally conceded, his tone tightening. "But one misstep, and you'll wish you never opened your mouth." With those words, Lily understood that while she had made considerable ground, there was much ahead. Treading carefully was essential now. The gravity of her decisions loomed larger than ever. She felt her stomach twist with the potential consequences of what lay ahead. A battle had begun, not just with them but within her. Could she truly merge these worlds, navigate danger, and emerge unscathed while furthering her ambitions? The stakes had never been higher, and the questions only seemed to multiply as she prepared to step into a role she had only just begun to comprehend. Caught up in the storm, Lily waited, heart thrumming in anticipation. She could feel the winds shifting, the course of her life changing, but this was just the beginning. Had she just ignited the spark that would fuel her ascent, or was she dialing in on a disaster? As Jake regarded her, an unsettling smile returning, the next move would define her fate within this precarious world. What she needed now was purpose, and as she caught the flicker in Joe's eyes, she questioned if he would elevate her or expose her vulnerabilities even further. The time had come to face the uncertain fallout of her bold declaration. The space felt claustrophobic, shadows stretching along the walls while the tension began to bubble like an uncooked pot on the stove. Lily's heart raced as yet another challenge loomed. She had been flung into the unknown, and yet here she stood, willing to fight fire with the iciness of her own resolve. The thought of floundering, of returning to the obscurity she had just escaped, gripped her with urgency. "First things first," Jake said with a new firmness, breaking her thoughts. "You'll start by gathering intel on our competitors. We need to know what's coming next." The command launched a flicker of fear through her, but it anchored her determination. She didn't just want to survive, she wanted to thrive. "Right. I can do that," she responded, her voice steadier than she felt. If she was going to prove her worth, she would need to cultivate resourcefulness, a skill honed over years in busy kitchens where timing was everything, each task running parallel to the next. She watched as Jake and Gio exchanged a glance that spoke volumes. They were assessing her, perhaps weighing the sincerity of her commitment against the risks of bringing an outsider into their world. She could almost hear the gears of their minds turning, each pondering how much she might prove to be a thorn in their side or an unexpected ally. In that moment, an idea sparked in Lily's mind. She'd observe how they operated, not just in business but in their interpersonal dynamics. She had always had an eye for details, whether it was the slightest slice of herbs or the definitive moment a dish transformed from mundane to sublime. Now, it was about translating that knowledge into their environment, recognizing every personality, every nuance that could mean the difference between disaster and success. First, she needed a plan. "Let me set up a meeting with our suppliers," she suggested, feeling a surge of confidence. "If I can get to know them personally, I'll have a better gauge on who to trust and how to handle our dealings." The words coming from her mouth felt surreal, yet they carried a weight of urgency that both excited and terrified her. Jake narrowed his eyes, scrutinizing her. "That's a hefty risk. You aren't trained for this, and trust me, you'll be in deep water." "Maybe," she countered, meeting his gaze fiercely. "But I'm also adaptable. I won't shy away from tough situations." Those words hung between them, charged with their implications. Gio shifted slightly, a newfound interest visible in the crease of his brow. Perhaps she had struck a nerve, a semblance of admiration, or perhaps merely curiosity. "All right," Jake relented, nodding slowly. "You want this role, you'll need to earn it. I'll give you 3 days. In that time, get background on our suppliers and their connections. If you bring me fresh leads on potential contracts or leverage, we might just keep you on." The finality of his words pressed upon Lily, grounding her even more in the reality of what lay ahead. It was a challenge, but one she was finally ready to embrace. The spark of her ambition flared brighter, lighting a path that she could now navigate with more clarity. As the men discussed logistics, she slipped into a parallel, internal world, her thoughts racing to the past. The kitchen had taught her the significance of every minute detail. Seasoning had to be built progressively, just like the relationships she would now develop. Each person, each conversation could be a pivotal ingredient, creating a blend that could either yield exquisite results or disastrous outcomes. But was she truly prepared for the complexities of her new role? The realization intensified within her, a quiet urgency urging her onward. She had been known to be resourceful in the kitchen, but this was a different kind of pressure. Lives were at stake, and the stakes felt dangerously close. Could she really execute her plans without losing herself? Her thoughts simmered as anticipation slowly turned into action. There was no turning back. She had ignited something within herself that wasn't going to extinguish easily. As she imagined the interactions ahead, the inquiries, the potential betrayals, the guarded smiles, she questioned whether she had the fortitude to face the opposition head-on. Stepping beyond the threshold of their mentorship now meant confronting not only the surrounding competition but also herself. Unearthing the depths of her potential felt exhilarating and precarious at once. The moment seemed to stretch as they discussed their next moves, and as she focused, the room transformed. It was no longer just a meeting space, but her proving ground. But the gnawing question remained, in this high-stakes game, how could she be sure of her allies' true intentions? Just as the thought surfaced, the bell on the door chimed, and a familiar figure stepped in, someone she never expected to see, carrying a history of rivalry and unspoken secrets. Lily's gut tightened. What new challenges awaited her now? The air thickened as Lily's eyes locked onto the figure entering the room. A chill raced down her spine. It was Marco, once a competitor in the restaurant scene, his presence a reminder of a past she thought she had moved beyond. Memories flooded back, bitter rivalry, sharp criticisms exchanged over menus. Now, here he stood, a smirk plastered across his face, as if he had orchestrated the very entrance to rattle her. "Lily, what a surprise," Marco drawled, his voice smooth like silk but edged with hidden thorns. "I didn't expect to see you in a place like this." She forced a smile, the kind that had become second nature during her time in the kitchen. "Life has interesting twists, doesn't it?" "Indeed," he replied, his gaze roaming over her as if he were sizing her up. Behind the facade of politeness, she could sense a predatory gleam in his eyes. She shifted, the weight of her own ambition pressing against her like a vice, reminding her that this meeting was far from coincidence. Jake and Gio had paused their conversation, the atmosphere now charged with uncertainty. Their routine banter was interrupted by the foreboding energy Marco brought with him. They seemed to brace themselves for his next move. Lily couldn't afford to show weakness. Glad to see you're still in the game, Marco continued, amplifying the tension. I've heard some whispers about your new project. Ambitious little chef, are we? Lily's mind raced. Was he here to sabotage her? She needed to gather her wits. I believe ambition is necessary for success, it's what keeps one relevant, she replied, channeling her previous experience of reaching deeper in bustling kitchens to find strength from within. Marco's laughter echoed, chillingly disarming. How poetic. But ambition can lead one into treacherous waters, don't you think? One wrong move, and you might just sink. His words gnawed at her, tapping into her deepest insecurities. Yet she couldn't afford to be intimidated. Marco wasn't just a rival, he was a mirror, reflecting back her vulnerabilities, a challenge to her resolve. I might sink, she admitted, her voice gaining strength, but I also know how to swim against the current. And I'm quite good at adapting, she added, recalling her assertiveness in the kitchen. Adaptation meant survival. Such confidence. I do admire that. Marco leaned closer, a conspiratorial smile playing on his lips. Perhaps you could use my connections to gain further insight into those suppliers of yours. A little help goes a long way. His suggestion dangled in the air like a bait, enticing yet laced with ulterior motives. She could feel the tension in Jake and Gio, the way their posture shifted, ready to intervene. But something within Lily ignited, a spark of defiance stirring. She was no longer a passive participant in her life, not when the stakes were this high. To succeed, she had to navigate through this tricky landscape, and she couldn't let Marco's proposition lead her astray. No offense, Marco, but I prefer to rely on my own resources, she stated, each word precise, firm. I'll manage just fine without your help. A flicker of surprise crossed his face, quickly hidden, replaced by an even broader grin. You've got spunk, I'll give you that. Just remember, the waters are often murky, and one slip could cost you everything you've worked for. His veiled threat lingered in her thoughts, intertwining with the resolve crystallizing within her. She wouldn't back down, she had to prove not just to him, but to herself, that she could excel amidst treachery. As Marco moved to leave, the air lightened slightly, but not without leaving an ominous weight behind. With an unexpected farewell, he turned to exit, leaving Lily with more questions than answers. In this game of shadows and whispers, she needed to cultivate her hidden talents for survival and strategy. Trusting herself meant unearthing these capabilities and recognizing her ally's true intentions. And with Marco lingering in the periphery of her thoughts, the stakes had suddenly escalated. Lily turned back to Jake and Gio, who were watching her intently. I need a plan. Immediately, she declared, determination coiling in her gut. But as she prepared to dive into the delicate web of her mission, the future loomed ominously. How could she navigate and outmaneuver the intrigues lurking at every turn? Lily felt the room constrict around her as the weight of Marco's words settled like a storm cloud. Conflicted remnants of fear and resolve danced in her mind. She had always understood the importance of strategy in the culinary world, but now she was thrust into a game far beyond recipes and well-timed service. It was time to bring her meticulous planning into a realm where the stakes were not just financial but personal. Let us sketch out our next steps, she said to Jake and Gio, her voice steady, masking the turmoil inside. Their expressions shifted, transitioning from concern to fierce loyalty. Both had seen her evolve through the ranks, but now they were stepping into uncharted territory. First, we need to further research the suppliers, Jake suggested, tapping his fingers nervously on the table. Marco's connections may be dubious, but the information he hinted at could be useful if we can verify it independently. Gio nodded vigorously. Let us analyze our existing suppliers too. We need a comprehensive understanding of who we can trust. If Marco's right, we might be more vulnerable than we imagined. That was the turning point. It signaled a shift from defensiveness to a proactive foothold. They weren't just reacting to Marco's presence anymore. They were plotting a course toward newfound strength. Agreed. Let us fortify our supply chain before we make any moves, Lily replied. And we can't undervalue our competitive edge, creativity and quality. We're not just chefs, we're innovators. We need to channel that. The trio set to work, entrenching themselves in spreadsheets, supplier reviews, and coffee-fueled brainstorming sessions that stretched into late nights. Lily took charge, assigning tasks based not only on skills but on potential for growth. She encouraged Jake to expand his analytical skills, urging him to forecast market trends while she focused on the menus. Gio was tasked with creative presentations, pushing the team to innovate while reinforcing their brand identity. Amid the chaos, Lily found her stride. She breathed life into dishes that told stories of heritage, dreams, and aspirations. With each strategic development, she discovered a deeper sense of agency. As they solidified their base, Marco's specter hung overhead, but she refused to let it soar through her resolve. One evening, while flipping through culinary publications, she stumbled upon an article highlighting a leading chef who had transformed their restaurant against all odds. The chef had created an underground concept that thrived on scarcity, a brilliant way to engage customers and add an air of exclusivity. An idea flickered to life in Lily's mind. What if we create an invitation-only tasting menu that speaks to a refined clientele? We could test out new dishes in a live setting, garnering feedback while curating an air of mystique around our brand. Jake and Gio exchanged intrigued glances, savoring her vision. "That's bold," Jake remarked, a spark of excitement igniting. "But it could draw the exact crowd that Marco is connected to. Then we'll set the rules. We'll control the atmosphere. If he discovers us, we'll already have a line of loyal customers and a reputation that he can't tarnish," she retorted, the conviction in her voice bolstering their enthusiasm. As they mapped out the logistics, a thought gnawed at her. Was this provocation going too far? Would Marco retaliate? But rebellion against fear, she reasoned, was the first step toward ownership. In the coming days, they finalized their plan and crafted an intricate online campaign that built intrigue without revealing too much. This newfound sense of control and ambition stoked a flame of determination within her, but it also fed a gnawing anxiety. With every step toward this bold new venture, the risk of Marco's scrutiny loomed larger, ready to exploit any perceived weakness. As the launch date for their secretive tasting approached, Lily stood at a crossroads. Could she truly navigate through Marco's web of machinations while remaining true to her vision? Her heart raced, threading together excitement and trepidation, as the moment of truth approached. The thrill of control was exhilarating, but the shadow of Marco lingered, whispering doubts. The time had come to face not just the external conflict but her internal fears. That in this high-stakes culinary duel, would her ambition outweigh the treachery? As the night of the tasting neared, she couldn't shake the feeling that Marco was preparing for some sort of counterstrike. The real question remained, how could she rise above, unscathed and victorious, in a world rife with shadows? The evening of the tasting had finally arrived, and the air was thick with anticipation. Lily stood in the kitchen, directing the evening's preparations with an intensity that masked the anxiety brewing in her chest. Each plate that left the pass was infused with an essence of her vision, a blend of tradition and innovation, perfectly crafted to captivate the exclusive guests. As the clock ticked down, her mind raced through the logistics. Invitations had been selective, only those with a genuine appreciation for the art of dining received access. This was her calculated counter to Marco's influence, a way to carve out a niche that set them apart. Yet, beneath her exterior confidence, doubts shadowed her ambitions. Could she truly create a sanctuary in a world so laden with threat? "Lily," Gio called from the front of the house, his voice steady yet urgent. "The first guests have arrived." Lily's stomach turned. It had become all too real. The weight of potential failure crashed into her thoughts, but she channeled her trepidation into focus. This was her moment to stand against the chaotic tide. She couldn't falter now. With a deep breath, she adjusted her apron and took the lead, stepping into the dining area. As hushed conversations melded with the distant clinking of wine glasses, she took in the elegant setup, the flickering candles, fine china, an especially curated wine selection that hinted at the stories yet to unfold over the evening. The meticulous attention to detail now stood as a testament to her journey. "Welcome," she greeted, projecting warmth and enthusiasm. The guests, elite figures from various backgrounds, nodded in appreciation as they scanned the room, a blend of intrigue and expectation resting in their gaze. As the first course was served, she felt the anticipation shift to engagement. The reviews poured in, enthusiastic murmurs bounced off the walls, and for a moment, she embraced the small victories that punctuated the night. Yet, lurking in the periphery was the relentless thought of Marco. What was he planning? Each ring of her phone sent her heart racing, half expecting a message or a call that might spell disaster. Throughout the evening, she navigated conversations like a seasoned diplomat, skillfully sidestepping topics that felt too familiar. But as the night wore on, one guest, a sharply dressed man with an unmistakable presence, cornered her by the kitchen. He had an aura that commanded attention and respect, and his eyes sparked with curiosity. "Your concept is intriguing, chef," he said, his voice smooth, but with an undercurrent that sent a chill through her. "Do you think exclusivity can work in this city, especially with someone like Marco looming around?" She met his gaze, steadying herself against the sudden intensity. "Exclusivity isn't about isolation, it's about creating a community that values quality and tradition. With the right foundation, we can stand resilient." As she spoke, the words flowed with a conviction she didn't fully feel. Each syllable was a dance, bold yet nimble, as if she was sculpting an idea not just to convince him, but perhaps to reinforce her own resolve. The man studied her for a moment, then nodded appreciatively. "There's fire in you, chef. Just remember, shadows can lurk where you least expect them," he replied cryptically before winking and fading back into the dining room. An unsettling feeling crawled through her. Did he work with Marco? The thought twisted her stomach. If he was, then each word had been laced with challenge, but if not, perhaps there was still room to create alliances that could fortify her between now and the next clash. Lily retreated to the kitchen, her heart hammering. She had discovered a newfound sense of agency and strength, confronting subtle threats in dialogue, but how far could that translate into action? Could she defend her creations organically, or would she need to enlist allies amidst the career war shaping around her? With plates still to be served and doubts lingering in the dark corners of her mind, she wondered how well she understood the game they were playing. Balancing her culinary dreams against the undercurrents of deception and power struggles was becoming increasingly precarious. As the final dish was plated and served, a pivotal decision loomed. How to respond if Marco struck first? Would she maintain her strategy, or counter with overt defiance? The evening's momentum propelled her forward, but with every passing moment, she felt the shadow deepen. Would she be prepared to face him directly when the time came? The taste of ambition lingered, but so did the taste of something more ominous. Tomorrow would demand decisions that could redefine everything she had built. In the throes of culinary creativity, awakening a fight-or-flight response, she reveled in one terrifying truth: it was now a battle she couldn't afford to lose. The next morning dawned with an oppressive stillness, the weight of unresolved tension hanging in the air like an unsettling fog. Lily barely slept, her thoughts swirling around the cryptic warnings and veiled threats that had been thrown her way. She couldn't shake the feeling of being ensnared in a game where the rules were hidden, constantly shifting beneath her feet. After a quick cup of coffee, her mind sparked with clarity. Her vision was palpable now more than ever. She needed to fortify not just her establishment, but herself against the looming specter of Marco and the troubling figure from last night. She resolved to make strategic decisions today, but first, she had to gather the strength to confront the reality of her situation. As she walked into the kitchen, an idea ignited, a culinary tactic that mirrored the unpredictability she sensed outside her doors. Lily rallied her staff, ordering a morning session to explore new techniques and unexpected flavor pairings. It was time to harness her creativity as a shield, transforming her anxiety into culinary artistry that would fortify her defenses. The kitchen began to hum with energy, each member contributing ideas and innovations, forging a collaborative spirit she hadn't fully embraced before. "Let us reinvent yesterday's dishes," she instructed, her voice steady and confident. If we can surprise them with something novel, we'll establish our presence more firmly. We'll become an experience, not just a meal. Her team fed off her energy, the atmosphere buzzing with newfound purpose. They dissected plates, contemplated ingredients, and shared stories behind flavors, each exchange reaffirming their collective strength. It was during these moments, engulfed in the warmth of their camaraderie, that Lily felt a flicker of hope. She could build allyships not only with her staff but possibly with customers, too. The day progressed with remarkable excitement, and each dish they concocted veered further from tradition, stepping boldly into uncharted territory. In this artistic whirlpool, she found herself letting go of her doubts, allowing culinary passion to soar as she pushed evening menu preparations to their thrilling limits, but as the excitement built, so did an unsettling sense of urgency. At any moment, Marco could unleash his retaliation. She couldn't ignore the underlying tension that coiled in her stomach, akin to the simmering pots around her. It was a cold reminder of her vulnerability within the industry, a space where shadows hid behind every corner, and trust could turn on a dime. Later that evening, as preparations continued, her phone buzzed again. Glancing down, she saw a text from a number she didn't recognize. Her heart pounded as realization swept over her. This could very well be Marco or one of his associates. With a deep breath, she opened it, curiosity battling against dread. The message was simple: meet me at Café Lune at 8 p.m. We need to talk. For a moment, the kitchen fell silent as her mind whirled with possibilities. Did she dare go? Was this a trap or an opportunity? Would confronting Marco more directly show strength, or was it the reckless move that could jeopardize everything? Lily paused, entranced by the duality of the moment, the chess game unfolding amidst culinary artistry. Striking out now might indeed invite further disaster, but turning down the request could leave her vulnerable to an attack she wouldn't see coming. Even if fear gripped her, deep inside, a thread of rebellion ignited. Now she could either hold steadfast in her ideals or embrace the confrontation that could reshape her destiny. Resolute, she made her decision. If she was to stand a chance in this high-stakes game, understanding her opponent was essential. Tonight, she wouldn't just serve food, she would engage with the shadows lurking just beyond her grasp, ready to fight for everything she held dear. The evening slipped past her fingers, each tick of the clock echoing a mantra: knowledge is power. As she donned her uniform, a smirk crept across her face. The atmosphere shifted. Again, charged with purpose and passion as she prepared to step into the unknown. The moment had arrived to seize her fate or watch it slip away, one forkful at a time. Lily gathered her thoughts, her heart steadied. What will happen when I face him tonight? The stakes couldn't be higher, and she was ready to find out. The night air in the city buzzed with a palpable energy, matching the swirling anticipation in Lily's chest as she made her way to Café Lune. Each step brought forth the echoes of her journey. She had climbed mountains of self-doubt and faced shadows of danger. This meeting with Marco was both a culmination of her struggles and a chance to reclaim her narrative. As she entered the café, the ambient murmur of conversations and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee enveloped her. Spotting Marco seated in a secluded corner, she felt the weight of the moment settle over her like a second skin. His demeanor suggested casual confidence, yet Lily understood that behind his charming facade lay a predator carefully assessing his prey. "Lily," he said, a sly smile cutting through the noise. "I'm glad you decided to join me." His voice dripped with faux congeniality. "I was beginning to think you'd shy away from an opportunity to gain insights." "I'm not one to back down from a challenge, Marco," she replied, steeling herself. "What do you want?" His eyes narrowed with intrigue, and she could sense him weighing her resolve. "Let us dispense with the pleasantries. You know as well as I do that this city thrives on connection. Those who make alliances prosper." He leaned forward, his posture unfolding into a more predatory stance. "You could use a guiding hand. Let us not pretend you don't need it." The suggestion hung in the air, heavy with implications. In her mind, the stakes exploded into clarity, and Lily realized she had a chance to turn the tables. "Perhaps alliances matter, but they only thrive on trust," she said, channeling her inner strength. You should remember that trust is a fragile thing. Marco's smile faltered momentarily before he masked it once more. Ah, but trust can be leveraged, can't it? You could join my network. Imagine what we could achieve together. Lily fought down the urge to recoil at his insidious proposition. She thought back to the vibrant energy of her kitchen, the clamor of her team working synergistically toward a shared goal. I'm building something remarkable on my terms. I'm not here to exchange my integrity for your promise, she asserted, clutching her resolve like a shield. For a brief instant, surprise flickered over his features before he recomposed himself, the facade of control firmly restored. You have fire, that much is clear. But tell me, is it enough to protect you from the shadows stalking your dreams? Ensure your ambition doesn't lead to your downfall. At that moment, Lily recognized the essence of her transformation. She had confronted her fears in the kitchen, and she could do so again here. You underestimate my ability to navigate storms, she said, her voice steady. You don't intimidate me, Marco. It seems you're the one uncertain of your standing. His laughter came out low and menacing. You have guts, I'll give you that. But remember, in this city, audacity can come with a hefty price. With his warning, he stood, leaving her with one last haunting glance. Be careful, Lily. In your pursuit of ambition, shadows have a way of turning into specters. As he slipped into the dimly lit street, Lily felt awakened as if emerging from a fog. The encounter solidified her resolve. She was not merely a participant in this dangerous game but a player who would shape the outcome. In the days following, fueled by the adrenaline of their confrontation, she poured herself into her culinary vision. Armed with an assertive mindset, Lily expanded her invitation-only tasting series, infusing each dish with the vibrancy of her experiences and empreinte de resilience, each flavor telling her story of struggle and victory. The response was overwhelming. Word spread like wildfire through the city that this upstart chef was not just another culinary player, she was an innovator defying conventional norms. As every dinner unfolded, Lily's confidence soared, and she solidified her position no longer just a waitress, but a respected culinary figure. One night, while experimenting with a new dish, she received a call from a renowned international culinary magazine. They sought her for an interview, her name surfacing as a rising star in the competitive scene. The sentiment was surreal. She had transformed from surviving to thriving. During the interview, as she shared her journey, she articulated her philosophy: culinary arts and life are about embracing the chaos, understanding that every hardship is an ingredient in our growth. Those words resonated deeply with her, echoing her personal evolution from a timid waitress to a formidable contender. Recognition from the culinary community followed, and with it came opportunities, collaborations, guest chef appearances, and even offers from up-and-coming restaurants interested in her consultations. Lily had learned to navigate the competitive landscape, manipulating its unpredictable currents without losing sight of her integrity. Through her growth, her family's situation also blossomed. Finally able to provide for her mother and brother, she took pride in seeing them sheltered from the burdens that once loomed over their lives. Their shared happiness added another layer to her success, unveiling the importance of perseverance. Standing at the crossroads of achievement, Lily embraced the clarity and confidence she had fought so hard to attain. The shadows that once chased her had faded, transforming into stepping stones leading to her aspirations. As she placed the final touches on her award-winning dish, she felt an overwhelming sense of satisfaction, a tangible manifestation of her journey. The culinary world had seen her rise, but beyond that, she had proven to herself that she could thrive in the face of adversity. In that moment, Lily Johnson stood firmly rooted, her heart brimming with pride and fulfillment, embodying the relentless spirit of ambition. She had conquered her fears, broken free from the shadows, and emerged not just as a survivor but as a beacon of resilience, a true testament to her metamorphosis. Now is the time to join the journey of transformation and engagement in our community. You need to subscribe now to not miss out on more incredible stories that inspire and uplift. Leave a like now to help us feed the algorithm that shares these stories with others eager for inspiration. Comment below with your thoughts, reactions, And theories, because your voice matters in this evolving narrative. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion, because only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of connecting through shared experiences. Don't wait even one more second to share.